Hello, everybody, and welcome to another TTV interview. I'm Meso.
I'm Eljay.
I'm Ven.
I'm Tenebrain Victus.
And I'm Hayley.
And today we have the privilege to be sitting down with three members of Creative Capers who worked on the BIONICLE film trilogy. And if you guys would be so kind, please introduce yourselves and tell us your roles within the company and the project.
My name is David Molina. I'm one of the creative partners here, director, and one of my jobs is director here.
Okay.
And director on BIONICLE Mask of Light and the preceding two movies.
I'm Sue Shakespeare. I'm also the co-director on the three movies, BIONICLE Trilogy. At Creative Capers, I'm also a partner. And so that's me.
And I am Sue Shakespeare. One of the three of us equally own Creative Capers. I'm the president of Creative Capers, and I was the producer of the BIONICLE trilogy. The three of us worked together as a very close-knit team in producing and directing the trilogy.
Wonderful. It is very rare that we are able to sit down with three people at once who worked on a project like cumulatively all together. So thank you all for making the time, number one, to talk to us, and number two, to talk to us together. I really appreciate that because I think it's going to allow us to do a deep dive and really kind of dig into things, because it's been 17 years since you first started work on that.
Hard to believe. Wow, time flies.
Yeah.
These movies, they've got driver's licenses now.
Pretty much adults.
So, just a little, framework for the conversation we're going to have, mainly for you guys' benefit. We are what some would classify as BIONICLE superfans.
Nerds.
Nerds. Sure, you want to say that? That's true.
Nerds.
We were joking.
Boys.
We were joking a little bit before the recording about how you guys have helped shape the course of our lives. That is by no means an exaggeration. We have been doing this podcast for 12 years and been BIONICLE fans for going on.
Oh, congratulations.
In my case, 21 years I've been a BIONICLE fan. Some of us a little bit, later on. It's kind of allowed us to meet pretty much all of our friends, implore many different skills, grow ourselves as people, and you guys' work on the movies is instrumental in that. So, first of all, thank you.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Second of all, just as kind of a baseline to establish things, if you could, I'd like you to tell us the story about the origins of the BIONICLE films. Namely, how did you guys first get approached to work on the franchise?
Also,
Well, we'll let Sue kind of lead you in on that, because she, chronologically speaking, it's pretty clear in her mind still.
It is. I had been Creative Capers as a company. We produce animation for Disney, for Universal, for other people, and TV and theme park productions. And I had been, over time, I've known Sander Schwartz, who at one point was the head of development and production at Warner Brothers Television. And the Lego team, Connie Coucher, Bob Thompson, there was Vanessa, Stieg. The BIONICLE team had come to the U.S. looking for a production studio for the movies. The toy line was doing really well, and Connie Coucher knew Sander Schwartz at Warner Brothers. So the BIONICLE group, they had found some people to interview, and they were having meetings with people and had met with several teams, I believe. And when they were speaking with Sander at Warner Brothers, he had told them they should meet with us because he was a fan of our work. And I think at one point at that time, Warner Brothers was considering perhaps being the distributor of the BIONICLE films. So I received a call from them one day, and they were getting close to making a decision. So they wanted to meet the very next day. So they came to our studio, Connie and Bob Thompson,
I have a funny just a little section I want to say right here. Is that I got a phone call at lunchtime. This is David speaking, and they were asking for Sue, and I went, very nervous, like who is? She goes, "This is so and so from Warner Brothers, and we're sending a group over from Lego to meet with you." And I was like, "Wait a second, by myself, how am I going to handle this?" So I said, "Use at lunch."
Sue, help!
And our company was quite large at that point, and people were looking for Sue, couldn't find Sue, and meanwhile they made it to the studio right before Sue and Terry came back, and I had all these tall Viking Danish guys walking around asking me questions, and inside panicking a little bit, going, I don't know what to do, what to say to them. And luckily, within a few minutes after they entered, Sue and Terry walk in. I was like, oh my gosh. So, but it was that quick.
Yeah, it was so fast. And when David says Viking, it's a good word because like Stieg, he was 6'6", I think.
Yes.
And they had a finance person,
yeah, he was like 10 feet tall.
My goodness.
Blonde, full-grown beard.
And a helmet thing with horns on it.
And the other guy named Martin Reiber Anderson, who was one of their head designers, was there too, and he was pretty imposing too. He looked like a Viking.
And they weren't smiling.
So they came and they said, we wanted to talk to you about, we're going to be making a direct-to-video movie of this toy line called BIONICLE, which we had never heard of. And so we had a discussion. They talked about their plans, and they needed a bid. I think I had to have a proposal for them like the very next day or within a couple days.
Yeah, which should take like a week.
It was so fast.
It was really apparent to us that they were serious. A lot of times we have people come over and you go, this is something months off, that these clients would be talking to us about, but not them. They wanted this like Miracle Grow on it now.
Yeah, they knew they wanted to make this movie very fast. So we had done our proposal, and then they narrowed it down to 2 teams, and they called and let us know we were one of the 2 finalists, because they told me they appreciated when they came to meet with us. We were very clear to them that we produce quality, and we could see that, something really wonderful could be done in the Bionicle world. I said there needs to be enough money to do the job right. We all
have a feature film background. We're all formerly we're with Don Bluth Productions, and they did Secret of NIMH, Land Before Time, and American Tail, Dragon's Lair,
Space Ace.
And so we come from that type of ilk, if you will, and so we're all very much quality conscious.
Yeah. So we were very clear in our meetings with them that if they choose us, we wanted to be able to do it right. We didn't want to make something that looked like a TV show
or TV commercial
or a TV commercial for a toy line.
Yeah.
And that made them. Bob Thompson, who was the creative, Bob was the writer. Who had worked from the beginning of Bionicle on the development of it, the universe of the Bionicle.
He was their version of a chronicler.
Yes, he was.
Well put.
Yeah. So then when they said that we were one of the 2 finalists, then they gave us, I think it was 2 weeks to do a test.
Yes.
Oh my
like
gosh.
a production test.
That's a story in itself.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And Dave and Terry.
We quick
storyboarded it.
We put a small little team together.
It was like a 1-minute piece of animation.
Yeah.
Terry flew to Taiwan. We had a studio we wanted to use. We knew would do the job well.
And we were sending Terry, to the great beyond. This, Taiwan. None of us had never been to Taiwan. Terry had been to China before, but not Taiwan. So Terry was headed over there. And we didn't see him for
it was like
a couple of weeks.
Yeah, but we chose. I think his name was Lahua, the green feller for the toy of air.
Hold on.
Run that by us again.
So real quick, I just want to say, I'm going to go ahead and post this in our Discord server here.
There he is.
Yes,
This
is full animation. It got posted.
Yes.
Yeah, and there was the character was basically just the toy.
Yeah,
You know, we didn't have time to redesign them, so we just
Because we got a model.
got a model
And-
from them.
And at the same time, we decided to do a personality piece.
Right. We wanted to show that they could emote a personality. So that was our main goal with it. So, yeah, we did it really fast, turned out really good. And we gave it to them. They loved it. And their first thing was they said, can you actually do this quality? And we were like, yeah, sure, definitely.
And what's kind of an interesting story along with that is when Terry flew over to Taiwan, we had worked in the past a studio called James Wong had a studio called Cuckoo's Nest, and it was the first major studio in Asia for 2D animation. And James Wong had been working from the beginning with Hanna-Barbera, so they had set up this studio in Taiwan to do Hanna-Barbera animation back in the 70s, and he was the most well-known person who had a good track record, and he was working with a small CG studio, CG. And when we saw their work, we felt this is the right studio to do this project with. They hadn't done anything like Bionicle, but Terry and David could see from the work they had, they had
quality standards.
Quality. So Terry was over there. They were literally working round the clock for 2 weeks getting this animation test together, which we then presented. And ironically, the day we presented our test, we also had a PDF, like a number of images showing some environment design and how the characters' faces might emote. And when Lego received our test, because it's in Denmark, they had already, the other studio they were looking at, there was one in Canada, I believe they were looking at. Yeah. And they had received their test already, and they'd been seeing it, and they had already thought, wow, this is great, we're going to go with these guys. And they told me this later.
And we got there our tape got there right in the nick of time.
Right, I think the cutoff was 5 p.m., and they got it because everything was FedEx. There was, back at that time, you weren't sending stuff via the internet.
On the Dropbox or anything.
So then they got our test. And it was like, oh, wow, they loved ours. And so then they called me. And I remember I got a call. I was in my car somewhere in a parking garage. I know I had to pull into a parking garage. And it was the guy, Klaus, who was the finance manager, who worked for Lego, but he was in Germany. And the Lego people are very direct. They're, short on words.
Serious.
As
a heart attack. And Klaus is like kind of questioning the budget and kind of, I call it beating me up a little bit, negotiating it. And so I'm sitting in a parking garage negotiating the budget for them to choose us. And we agreed, and we were able to come to an agreement on what it would be, because also it was, I think we did it in 9 months. How long?
Something like 9 months.
That's a year.
And
there was so little time.
And literally, it was around the clock work for a year. When we had our weekend, we were working in Taiwan, and when we were at work, they were asleep, and vice versa.
Yeah, so it was around the clock production. Our daytime would be doing all our work, and then the production team in Taiwan would go to bed. They'd be working. So we had 24-hour round-the-clock production.
Terry and I would be over there together sometimes not, and we'd call each other and give whatever the dailies were. We'd be sending them over and getting comments from the director here and also the crew from Denmark and Miramax. So it was a challenge at that.
Yeah, it was incredibly high performance, but tremendous quality.
Yes.
And so that was sort of how
it started.
We also got a fantastic tour of Lego itself. And that in itself is a great story, because they had to indoctrinate us to the Lego way of thinking. And they have their own culture, and they wanted to open the doors to us so we could get on the same page and see the production facility as well.
Their whole saying perfect is never enough or something.
I think Terry always likens it to Willy Wonka's factory.
Oh man.
They had an interesting way of doing it first, and then they had a simulation that everyone takes there. And it was you rediscovering your childhood. And they, in the middle of this huge building they've got a little, almost like a dark ride, if you will, but you enter it on your hands and feet as a child.
Hands and knees.
Hands and knees. It's hilarious. And we still laugh when we talk about it, or we talk about it with other people. But this is the way that they said you could get, that a Dane or anyone else could get into their childhood quickly, is going through this.
That was really interesting.
Yes.
Now, what was fascinating is because for Lego, the company has such a strong heritage and a culture as a company, which today people talk about corporate culture. Google has their corporate culture, Disney has theirs. Back in 2003, 2002, no one was talking about corporate culture. So when we arrived, as part of when they chose us, then we had to fly to Denmark, the three of us, and be taught how the Lego, we toured the factory and they taught us about the way they refer to things. Like, you don't say Lego blocks.
Yeah.
It's Lego brick.
And you don't say Lego.
Yeah, no S.
There's no plural.
Yeah.
No S.
Oh, we're very familiar with that.
Like Bionicle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No Legos.
No Legos,
And
Lego.
they're very serious about it.
Yes. And so when we were there the first day, they say part of this, the tour, we want you to experience. We have the Lego experience. Now, what's fascinating is after going through this, we think about it and talk about it frequently. Every executive they work with has to go through the Lego experience. So executives, let's say Sander Schwartz from Warner Brothers, he had to do it. Disney, Miramax executives all had to do it. And when you do this experience, they have you put on this like white jumpsuit and then little things over your feet.
You almost look like a painter, that you're going to paint a room.
And then you crawl through this little opening and they send you in like about 15 minutes apart.
Feels like you're in a big, elaborate, child-built fort.
Yeah.
And they tell you take as long as you want. And you start going through, so you crawl through and you're in like...
First you're in the womb.
Well, no, I thought that came later.
No, that was first.
First, you have to be born.
Born as a child in the very first room. I know it's hard to imagine this. You're
It
laying
is
there on your
freaky.
back, and they're showing films of, like a little baby being born.
It sounds like a Wes Anderson film.
Very strange. And then you go to another room, and
And you
you
have to
just
go
see,
down a tunnel.
and then you just see legs of grown-ups, and you get the perspective of being little, and then on and on.
Toys and little books.
Toys to play with, and little rooms. The whole time you're crawling
And
like a kid.
you're thinking,
What?
are
I'm
there
worried.
cameras?
I'm
Are
worried
they
they're
watching
watching us on camera,
And at the very end,
like it was a joke.
yeah, and at the very end, you're let off onto this slide. You slide down, and there's no one else around
There's no
except
one there.
yeah. You're standing there in this white thing, and you don't know whether to run because you're embarrassed.
Where do we go? It was weird.
And I have to share this with this. David, like they said, take as long as you want. So when I did it, I'm thinking, okay, I wonder if they're watching me through cameras. So and I mean, it was really fascinating, but also I was kind of acting as though someone's watching me. They'll be pleased. I'm not making fun of it or like scowling.
Right.
I'm thinking as I'm acting, like, okay, I'm acting, I'm interacting with this and that. And I think I took 20 or 30 minutes to go through it.
I took about that long, about a half hour.
I took about 5 minutes.
David liked it.
That's awesome.
He was terrified.
It's terrifying. Like, I got out of there. There was a guy at the end. He goes, well, "Don't you want to take more time?" And I went, "No, that's enough." That was scary. I can only imagine how I looked with this white, wash cap or shampoo cap thing on my head with this white.
Going through a little.
I had enough.
It was really good.
That definitely sounds like a thrilling experience.
That's great.
But we were kind of, we went, okay, this is the tone. This is whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
The initiation process.
But afterwards, we had a really great trip going through the factory and going through the design studios was really fun.
And that's when they were still making all the toys in Denmark.
Yeah.
Before they
Designing.
started, they designed there and they also manufactured there. And
A lot of robots. It was pretty cool.
They didn't go to China until the cost of production just became. This Lego went through a financial challenges during that period of time we were working with them. They had resisted going to China. They were trying to keep everything being produced there in Denmark. Mm-hmm. And ultimately they had to change because they just couldn't stay cost competitive. But so we got to watch them making the brick and the bionicle pieces and all the robotic, everything with robots and conveyor belts that they would make parts, and then arms would take them and put them in a bin, and then the bins would be, they'd go along this track until they go into different storage spots. It was fascinating.
A very sterile environment, like a medical almost.
Super clean.
Very cool.
And then we flew back, and it was time to really
go
perform.
So we'll let you talk now because you may have more questions, and we're just talking here.
Oh, trust me, that story you just told me, we live for stories like that.
That's a wonderful insight. That's
Thank
super
you for
cool to
sharing.
start.
All right. Well, Eljay, you're up next.
Okay, so I'm still a little bit like, we've never heard that before. Like, we've talked to a lot of people who either work with, work for, have worked with and for Lego. Never once have we heard that one.
That's great.
To the point where I don't know if they're like pulling a prank on you or something.
We'll get
How
these
bad
to the Americans.
Everyone has to do this.
A candid camera.
That's what I was thinking.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
Okay, so I want to get kind of into the nitty-gritty on things, because you answered a couple of the questions we had. But let's actually talk about the production side and what that kind of looked like. So, to start off with, how much creative freedom totally did you guys have with the films versus how much of it was directly mandated by Lego? Because obviously enough, these films, they're in a universe. You got Bob Thompson kind of overlooking things. You got like a Bionicle story team. So how did those two elements work together?
At the very beginning, they sent over several people, designers. We worked directly with a team of 4 or 5 people that were living with us practically
For like 3 months or something.
like 3 months. They're with us every day, and they had a very specific idea. The story and everything was very well figured out,
very deep.
And so working with their toy designers, they were very collaborative. Though we were kind of surprised. It wasn't because we were worried they were going to say, "Okay, here's the toy, just animate it," and we didn't want it to feel like a commercial. Our goal the whole time was we wanted to make the Bionicle films feel like they were done first, and then a toy was designed afterwards instead of the other way around. That was our goal. So we were actually allowed to redesign the characters a little bit, keeping them looking like the toy, but giving them features that could be animated nicely. The biggest, most controversial one, and you guys probably, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but we decided we wanted to add hands instead of the tools they had. Mm-hmm. So that was a really big deal that they let us do that, because we just felt we just can't do good animation gestures and emoting acting and real characters if they can't, we just felt like they really needed to have hands.
The limiting factor of
That's us.
The limiting factor of the design itself of the characters, we needed a secondary underlaying. The mouth, the hands, as Terry was saying, even areas of the eyes. We need to break a little bit of the design up in order to get better performance. If you're going to watch this for over an hour.
And they were really good about allowing us to do that. So working with their designers and our design team, we kind of met in the middle with that. So we were real happy about that, because it really helped our animation performance a lot to make them a little more human.
And I would say that we also, Terry and David, as the directors of the film, I would say kind of educated the Lego team on performance, because animation is acting in its performance. And in animation, especially with the Bionicle, they needed be able to have facial expression. And in animation, you gesture with the hands. the arcs of body movement are important. So Dave and Terry would show examples with Bob Thompson looking at Charlie Chaplin, all types of things of gesture and how do you create a performance. And kudos to the Bionicle and the Lego team. They wanted quality. They wanted this to feel, impactful, really have high production value, and be something they'd be very proud of, because this was their first foray into entertainment. I mean, you can look at what the Lego Entertainment Company has become. This was their very first animated piece. And so they wanted quality. And while they had designs for the website, they had inspiration for a box, some of the environments, but nothing was locked down. So we had tremendous freedom to design all of that.
They had commercial pieces that they had done for commercials, and they were nice. It was done by a team over there in Denmark.
But they were toy commercials.
Yeah, they're toy commercials. The characters weren't really performing. They were more like running, walking, and whatnot. But we were talking about a character, standing there and performing and giving, believable lines and acting.
We felt having hands and eyes that emoted and a mouth that moved with good dialogue. We just needed those three things to bring the characters to life, and they allowed us to work with them on that.
He brought on some really good industrial designers to work with us that were also, familiar with anatomy, and so we worked very hard, quite a while, on trying to get the characters to have that depth of the actual visual look of them, so it would look really cool.
The challenge was keeping them looking like the toy, so you'd recognize it, but yet trying not to also. We didn't want to make them look cartoony. It would have been real easy to make them look like goofy looking, So we wanted them to feel like, how cool the toy looked, So
yet not too robotic.
Not too robotic. Yeah. We want, so it was a fine line. What do you guys? I have a question for you. What did you think about hands instead of tools on that?
Vin, you wanna?
What was your thought? You must have been. Were you angry or what?
Yeah, we remember the anger on the Bionicle online of people going, "How could they do that?
How could they do that to the toy?"
They gave them hands and proportions and feelings. How could they?
Yes.
Oh, I always actually found it astounding, the design language of the characters that you'd see on screen. It always, for me as a kid, watching the movies and seeing them like that, it kind of made me think, that's how they're supposed to look.
Right?
And so
it was always difficult to visualize just from, the advertisements where they didn't speak,
Right. Yeah, because in the commercials they play it off as if they're just these robots. They
one thing
noises and stuff, but the movies.
One thing I'll add is Terry, Sue, and I have always been big toy collectors.
Yeah,
big, huge.
Mostly a '60s, which is our childhood.
And we also are designers. We have done design in the toy industry as well for Mattel and whatnot. So we did understand. The
language of toys.
Yeah, the language of toy, design language, and why they do things. So we could walk in both areas. So we were trying to honor the Lego fans and also the designers at Lego, but we walk this fine line of both of that and trying to give something different or something worthy of the screen.
Another thing we added to the characters was muscles. We gave them some body, some more stuff to fill the holes. We felt like they were too. They just felt too much like a toy. So we gave them some muscle areas there, underneath some of those.
To make them look organic, essentially.
Yeah, a little more organic, and like something was actually there that could actually move the limbs, and they're a little more realistic. So they let us do that too.
Sinuous muscle that wraps around the joints.
We also had we came up with an idea of having lights inside of the eye areas that we can then manipulate. We could squint and make them get larger and make them look like they're looking directions. So we kind of did that with making it look like there were lights inside of there that we could use to have the eyes emote, and that really worked out good.
I always really liked the implementation of the heart lights That was your guys' idea, right? That
Yes. Yeah, we felt that was like in essence the soul almost.
Yeah.
Some type of life force within them that we wanted to spread that out throughout the cast.
And I would say when we produce animation, David and Terry always say that they want to put a soul into a character. And you do that, through the eyes, through the way they express, because you want to feel, and we feel that that's a trademark of some of our animation, is feeling that these characters really exist.
So you can relate
to them. And so that heart light was an important part of that. And again, I come back to kudos to the Lego people. They agreed, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
They would really listen to us. Mm-hmm. And like Martin, the head of toy design, very analytical, what is the toy? What are the tools? How does it work? But we would have these sort of existential discussions on, who are these characters? And Bob Thompson could really flow with that, in their world, and what do they represent? The spirituality of their world, because there was a tremendous spirituality in the world. And we wanted to, help bring that to the forefront as well.
Bob Thompson was really good in this production. He really understood and knew the whole depth of Bionicle, which was quite deep.
Really, really good story guy.
Yeah, and where it was going.
Where it was going, he knew all the everything. He was our mentor of Bionicle. He really was.
Bob Thompson's one of the few people from the team that we haven't at some point been able to correspond with. Hopefully we can talk to him one day.
He would be number one. Yeah.
Does he not want to respond? Or
he's kind of no idea. He's kind of a ghost on social media.
Very hard to reach to.
Nobody has ever actually had a fan interview with him, ever.
That's interesting.
Wow, I'm telling you,
more than anybody.
He's like, for us at the time, he was like the center of that universe.
Have you spoken with Henry Gilroy?
We have not.
Oh, because Henry was the writer. Henry worked with Bob to write the script. Closely, I can introduce you to Henry. Henry's a great guy. Super nice. And he went on to work with Lucas. I'm digressing here, but he went in to be the story editor of the Clone Wars.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Oh wow.
Work up on Lucasfilm.
Sorry, that is really exciting to me because I love Clone Wars so much.
And he's doing the Marvel stuff at Disney.
Woo!
Holy cow.
Marvel stuff. So I can help introduce you to him. You will love him. He knows the story and how the story came about and this wonderful universe and things. Yeah.
I would love that personally. That sounds extremely exciting. I'm sorry.
Hey, Henry.
Speaking of story.
Do you have another question? I don't want to go off into a tangent.
Eljay had a question.
Oh, okay. Yeah. In regards to all of that, see, it's very interesting you guys are talking about kind of the tissue around joints and then the heart light, because those are things that we are familiar with from other story material as well. It's all discussed. So we interface a lot with the community. Interfaces a lot with Greg Farshti. Did you guys ever talk with him?
Yes, Greg. Yeah, I was going to ask
Greg.
Super great guy. We were at Comic-Con together with him on a big panel.
Yeah, no, Greg. So he is still an employee of Lego. He is their editorial director, and he is on our website, our message board website, answering questions still.
I love that.
That's great.
He is phenomenal. He's been nothing but wonderful with us. So we're familiar with him talking about, the tissue being a part of these characters, even if, they're represented in books or comics. Yeah, no, the tissue, that's story stuff. That's canon. Heart lights, so on and so forth. So in that sense, who had, control? That's not the word I really want to use, but gets the point across. Control of the storyline. How much creative freedom did the scriptwriters have over the direction of the films versus the Lego story team? What was that dichotomy?
I think that's a good question. At the time, they didn't call it the Bionicle canon. That expression didn't exist. Mm-hmm. I think Greg was writing storylines, but he was working, my understanding is he was working very closely with Bob Thompson on all of this. And then Henry Gilroy, who was the scriptwriter, he and Bob worked together. They had drafted and I think Greg participated in it, but my memory wasn't that Greg was as involved. And the tissue wasn't, it's part of the canon now in the Heartlight, but it wasn't at the time.
No.
So we brought that to the table and that then became the canon, added to it. But Henry and Bob really, I think, were the
story guys.
The story guys.
Yeah.
Working with Greg on because I think at that point they were comics. He was doing some comics for it, and had done maybe a couple comic books, but it's not like we
didn't interface much with him.
No, we never met him. I don't believe until after the movie came out. We were all on a panel.
It was all Bob Thompson was the only person,
and Henry,
but mostly Bob,
and mostly Bob, and so they, we never proposed story change. I think I remember we edited the script. The script was about a 2-hour movie.
Yeah, it was a little long.
It was long. It had to go. It was going, around the world of, the Bionicle world, and just for the amount of time, to finish it and budget, we had to scale down the scope of the script because there was just too much there.
And plus, we kind of wanted to slow the story down a little, so it wasn't just all action. We really wanted some time for the characters
for you to get to know them.
Yeah, get to know them, and we knew those kind of moments needed minutes, and so they allowed us to cut a lot of action things out so we could have more character moments. And then we did a lot of our work story-wise. I mean, we didn't really help them write anything. It was more when we got into storyboarding with our storyboard team. That's when we kind of put our 2 cents in and
added gags,
take the script and add gags and embellish and try to translate the story into something visual.
Open scenes up or lengthen scenes so we could get that moment of thought in a character. So you could see there were brains behind that.
Right, the brains in them. And Bob was good because part of our storyboarding process, we board much like the old Disney feature guys did. You can start from a script, or you can also then add, like they do on SpongeBob and different shows. The storyboard, often the storyboard artists are almost the writers. They go in and they add a lot of gags and the humor. So we use the script as the foundation, but then Dave and Terry, working with their board artists, would go into moments and identify, all right, with the Toatahu, this is a good moment to explore, and then they would put some gags together and envision ideas, and then share it with Bob and Henry, mostly Bob, and then Bob would decide, yeah, let's do that. And because Bob also knew. Bob taught us about the Bionicle boy, the boys who love Bionicle. They're boys who are on the move. They've got their toys in their backpack.
Skateboard and backpack.
And they like humor and they action. And so Bob really embodied the understanding of the boy. And
he understood his audience very well.
And then he would look at the ideas we had. We might have 50% more ideas than would be used.
Yeah.
But they could thumbnail those out in thumbnail storyboards quickly, the little gag sequence and the idea and how it was. For Bob, it always had to add to the character, or it had to add to the pushing forward the movement of the plot. Nothing could just be something thrown in that's just for the sake of being funny.
Yeah.
It needed to all contribute.
To the character or the story as a whole.
He was very careful about linking all this in. And you could see the path of his thinking because of his deep knowledge.
And like a thread. I use sometimes in animation the analogy of a piece of fabric or a tapestry, and you put a thread through it. These character moments, or if we had ideas for things, Bob would look at, because he knew the next 3 years of Bionicle storylines that were coming. And how these characters might
he wouldn't tell us everything.
No!
It drove us nuts.
It was, we never even knew if there was going to be a next film. No. He wouldn't tell us to the last moment.
It's always a secret.
I'd be on the road and Sue says, I say, well, I guess this is it for Bionicle. And Terry'd say, I don't know. Sue's on the phone with Bob. And Bob would go,
would tell Sue, yes, there's going to be another one. And we're like, when's it going to start? Next month.
Holy cow, that's quick.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was, yeah.
Jokes on
We made 3 movies in 3 years,
just
and we never knew, because Lego itself as a company, I believe, they were finishing Bionicle 1, and they had to take it out, and they had to, get people to respond to it. Mm-hmm. So we finished it, and then a month later, I think Bob teased it, like, well, because Miramax was involved, well, there's a little discussion that perhaps there might be another one. And so they're off doing all their business deals.
Yeah.
And then he'd say, oh, we want to have a call. And then start the next one. And each time it had to be done within the 1 year, within the same year. So
it was running and tying your
right.
shoelaces at the same time. So.
One contributor we'd like to really give a shout out to is our friends at CGCG. And they were the animation arm, if you will, or on the boots on the ground, animating this stuff while Terry and I were going there and pretty much going through the storyboards with them and getting it animated. They, they're the ones responsible for Clone Wars now, and they've been
and How to Train Your Dragon, a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
they're really busy now.
They've really taken off in the last 15, 16 years.
But we did all the pre-development here at our studio, all the storyboarding, all the character design, even test animation, color art direction, everything, and then we'd send it over there, and then they would execute it, and then Dave and I would go there either together or separately and then work with them.
And the way that worked is because in animation, when a character is animated, the director looks at it, and often, because again, you're communicating Bionicle sensibility to animators in China.
Yeah,
who don't
they're just staring at you.
Yeah, there's
who don't understand English.
So
some of them,
and there's a Western sensibility, if you will, that we are trying to instill within these characters especially on acting scenes. And there's a different way that they might say a line there or convey a line there as to how we would, especially when you're involving things that, of comedic reference or
because the sense of comedy is different.
And even timing.
And they would be animating and they would send scenes. We'd get them, we were using FTP sites back then. You'd share scenes via FTP site, would download the scenes. We'd get a group every day and we'd look at them in the morning, and Dave and Terry would have comments and do little storyboard draw-overs.
Or we would give them a QuickTime movie.
QuickTime movie
and
acting it out
or something.
And then when it was time, we built it Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. And as the animation was coming together on Act 1, we would have a week for approvals and revisions. And on that week, Dave and Terry would be, for a week or two, in Taiwan, doing all the revision notes, directing them personally so they could get finished, and then the scenes could move on to the next phase of the production. So it was this back, we were here, but then a lot of time they spent in Taiwan working hand in hand with the animators, because for the animators there, some of them were very new, they had talent, but the sensibility of acting is different. And in Asia, in Chinese animation, people will act with the hands, where the hands get very busy, waving the hands around. Over animating, which become distracting. So they would have to guide them not to. And David had them, animators will look at a mirror to watch their facial expressions. Like you'll see the pictures of the old Disney animators where they've got a mirror on their desk and they're looking at the mirror and they're acting it out and watching themselves. They don't do that there.
But we got them to do it. They actually set up a little tiny room with a big mirror in there. And they would animators would go in there without anyone and close the door privately and then act out their scene.
Because they didn't want to do it.
They didn't want to do it in front of people either. Very private.
Very private. And so we even gave animation classes there. And we brought Chaplin films with us just so they could study acting and movement. So we really tried to help them lift their animation skills, character animation skills there, to tackle this project.
Man.
Wow. Fair enough. I mean, this is like the third time you've basically read our mind and like anticipated like the next questions you were going to ask. It's pretty great, actually, because I know you, like, well, you can go ahead if you want to segue.
Oh, me?
Her, but also you.
Oh.
No, you answered my question.
Fair enough.
Oh, okay, there we go.
So,
In that case, Eljay, ask you third.
I'm sorry, guys. All right. So now for the tough questions. These are
no.
the real hard hitters. Like, I don't do anything with sports, but if this were sports, this would definitely, it would send the ball to the place ball needs to go. And it would do it very well.
LJ, if you need to know who Charlie Chaplin is, you could just Google him.
I know. He's very famous in baseball.
Yes, please
I haven't
do.
forgotten.
He what?
Yep, Charlie Chaplin, the famous baseball player. I haven't forgotten that. I like to come on, guys. I like to think I know what I'm talking about. Okay, so these are the big ones. These are the nerdy ones.
Summer child.
In the community, the Bionicle community, and people that follow the story and whatnot, there's a lot of conversation surrounding the films and their representation of certain aspects. So the story writers, after the films, they would tell us certain things. They would say, this is this is that. And then we'd look at the movies and say, well, how does this fit in? And then say, this way, kind of. And there are two main elements that get the most discussion. The first is love. That's right, we're getting close to February. Valentine's Day is soon upon us. And love is a hotly contested conversation when it comes to Bionicle, because we are accustomed to hearing the phrase, love is not canon. And what that means, essentially, is that these biomechanical characters, you know, the Mator and the Toa, they cannot love.
They're incapable
of romantic feelings. So any love they express, it's like familial. It's like brother, sister, stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
So
With a fist bump.
yeah. Okay. I'm gonna put a pin in that. Don't let me forget to tell a story about that. Fist bump. Okay. So when it comes to that, we were curious what the conversation regarding love is from your guys' perspective, because it's seen in the movies at least 3 times. You know, Holly and Jala. It's like, not gonna let anything get past Captain the Guard.
Never forget that Coley match, man.
Yeah. And then the second movie, taking a romantic ride drive. So how did that factor in? What was the conversation surrounding that like? Because we've heard since, it's not one of the things that carried over.
Well, at the time when we were animating, especially like in those areas, it wasn't really pressed upon us to have those kind of moments, of any kind of romance whatsoever.
No.
Because remember, this is for the Bionicle boys
Yeah.
at a certain age, and that's not really.
Yeah, even to have the girl character was a big deal. So I don't think maybe people view it as love, but we viewed it more as just boy girl kind of joking around with one another, maybe
little flirty thing,
flirty, but that was the extent.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about that much.
We wouldn't lengthen a scene to get too engrossed.
I think we
upon
just
that.
wanted that kind of where little kids are kind of teasing each other a little flirtatiously, that kind of thing. But
the Bionicle community has a tendency to like go very deep into things that most people wouldn't consider a big deal.
Yeah.
So like
Sure.
you can say that, but you throw on like anybody else in the community and they're like, but your script said the word romantic in it. How can they know what romantic is if they don't feel love? And it's like, well, that whole kind of thing.
And no one, I don't remember anybody talking about love at all. But also though, if they're saying love is not in the canon, at that time nobody said they cannot love. They cannot have feelings of love.
I don't remember
Nobody
even
said
talking
that.
about love.
Fellowship was a big deal. Good friends and supporting one another,
working together, and kind of thing. But,
and they had the feminine, the female characters, but just
I don't
the one
remember
group.
ever talking about love and romance ever that I can remember.
I mean,
Never came up.
And in Bionicle 3, the husband wife team. I mean,
Sidorak.
And what was her name?
Rudaka.
Rudaka. We always called her Lady Macbeth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was sort of based on Lady Macbeth, the stronger woman who's bossing
Manipulating
the
from
king
behind the
around
scenes.
from behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I always figured. It was like, well, when it comes to this situation, sure, they're robots, but I always figured there wasn't like a mandate to make them not human-like to you guys. It was like make quite the opposite, make them relatable and whatnot.
Yeah.
So.
And human emotions, like looking after one another, getting into, having to go off on this mission and this adventure to help, save the day, and it being the friendship that held each other while they go on these adventures and things. The fellowship, it really was about friendship and collaboration and teamwork coming up against evil and darkness.
Fair enough.
Okay. So this is the big one.
Ask your question.
In all of your careers, this might be the most important question ever asked, I'm sure.
We're ready.
Boy.
We're ready.
Right.
Fire.
It's also the dumbest. So, one of the characters in the film, Toa Liwa, the focal character of the test animation.
Yes.
In the film, he is a very, very specific way. He's kind of almost... I don't know how to appropriately describe the way the character is in the movie. But, he's kind of that wispy, wind, fly, sand, twister kind of...
Yes.
Two parts of his portrayal are discussed in the community. One is his name, because see, the film calls him Liwa. Most people I know say it Liwa, Lewa.
Normal people say Lewa.
Some people say Lewa, and I've heard that the reason that people pronounce it Lewa, which is a pronunciation that comes directly from Lego. Lego are like, yeah, this character's name is pronounced Toa Lewa, is because over in Denmark, the characters, it's the people that work there say it Leva. What, I don't know if you guys can recall, what was the decision making on that one? Also,
Some people also called him Lua.
We don't talk about those people.
And even you, when you said it earlier, was like Lawa.
Louis.
Well, when we recorded the dialogue, it was Liwa, and Bob Thompson was there. We were recording.
Bob Thompson constantly corrected us how we were pronouncing it.
You said Bionicles.
Oh my goodness, that's funny.
Oh yeah,
Always,
all the time.
we always said stuff wrong.
Bob directed that, and we recorded dialogue in Canada. We recorded in a studio because a lot of dialogue for animated series is done in Vancouver. Huge numbers of actors up there for the animation industry, and by recording also in Canada, you don't have to worry about SAG or some of the other royalties and things. And since this wasn't a TV series, it was direct to video. It makes life easier, and a lot of casting options. So when we cast, we had probably 20 people who came in to record for each of the Bionicle characters.
Yes.
And then we chose. We went up for a casting session, then we went back for the recording session. And so it was Liwa at the time. Maybe they decided later, people, and they did pronounce things differently up in
and
Denmark.
sometimes it would change,
It's
I mean,
controversial.
we had many discussions with Bob on how to just pronounce things.
All the time.
Even
Almost every day.
aluminium and aluminum.
Right.
It was
Aluminum, aluminium.
really, it was
Tomato.
a daily thing of being correct.
Because Bob is from England, so you've got Bionicle, Denmark, but Bob is from England, and so you've got tomato.
It felt like it was always.
Oh,
LJ over here only cares because Lee was his favorite character.
Well, okay, hang on, listen. I got raisins. That actually makes a lot of sense because I did an interview with a gentleman by the name of Alistair Swinnerton, a few years
Oh,
back.
that sounds
yeah.
familiar. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was heavily involved in the initial conception of the Bionicle theme, and he takes full credit for the naming of the original 6 characters, the original 6 Toa, and he was adamant. It's like, yep, it's Liwa. He's also in England. He's also English. And he talked a lot about working closely with Bob Thompson and Martin Anderson on that original concept. So that actually makes so much sense. I guess my follow-up question, because I swear, listen, man, Meso, it's not just me. This is a conversation. Was really the overarching, okay, this is more me, the overarching portrayal of Liwa as kind of that almost older, wiser sound. Like, what was the philosophy behind how that character sounded? Who really, I guess this branches to all of them. What was the creative direction on all of those?
Well, I know Bob, being the writer, had very specific, ideas of what he wanted with them. For us, it was more, we weren't so wrapped up into who the characters are in the Bionicle world, but we just wanted good actors and a good texture of different types of actors that had a different feel, different sound, a different cadence, and something interesting. But he was very specific on what he wanted.
I remember when we were beginning casting, Bob had little write-ups almost. There were character profiles, obviously, for design and acting, but he also had then thoughts on what the voice might be. Mm-hmm. But he was also open to exploring ideas. And so when we worked with our casting group, we would have certain actors, they might read for several of the Toa. One of them, that especially Toa Tahu, that's the red one, right?
Yeah.
The red one.
Yeah.
And we knew when we were doing Toa Tahu, we wanted a real
macho guy,
macho action man type of voice. And the guy who read for it, Scott McNeil, actually, I remember Scott.
Funny guy.
He also did a couple other voices, because for each of them, they would record a main character, and they could also record ancillary characters that you had payment structures for them. And these were really good actors. So he also read for other Toa.
Yeah.
And then in the actual recording, casting session, and then we'd listen through, and then Bob we'd all discuss together which voices we thought were strongest.
Very tough decisions.
They were.
Yeah.
And then in the actual recording for the voices, which the recording was done at the same time storyboarding was done, and for any of the acting scenes, we had the recording by the time of the storyboards were locked. But Bob would then, we would give them guidance and direction in the actual recording session to find the voice, because for some of them, it was a process to find that voice. And sometimes they might go through, let's say, on Toa Tahu. I'm not saying this is what happened at the time, because I don't remember all the exact things, but he might have gone through the entire script. You'll record a line 2 or 3 times, or you record 5 or 6 lines in a row, and then go back and record more, because they recorded individually. They did not record together.
Right.
And then we might go through the whole script, and by the end of that first pass on the script, like the voice was coming together. And then we might go back and re-record all of the lines again, because it got into a place where it felt natural. And I do remember with Liwa, Bob wanted there to be, so for Tahu, it was like macho, strong. But then he wanted this more wild kind of wild man.
Yeah, I always thought
jungle.
We always saw him as a wild man. When we first did our tests too, we gave 2 tests. One is the one you have up, and there's a second one of a close up of Liwa. And we animated him to Clint Eastwood's line, so punk,
No way.
Yeah, we animated him to that line. And
my goodness.
It really helped, because we just kind of we didn't know what was going to.
We didn't really know the characters yet.
No, and if that was going to fly or insult them,
But I think that really they liked that.
Yeah.
It was, even though maybe the character was incorrect for what they wanted, they saw that they were going to act.
Yeah. And that was one way that we manipulated the mouth and the eyes the way we wanted it. And that helped sell our design sense of where we would take the character.
So what are the odds that Clint Eastwood test is still like something in you guys' possession after all these years?
It isn't on the test that you have there. I don't know.
Nah,
Unfortunately, no. We've never heard of that.
It's
But that
awesome.
I
sounds
have to
yeah.
learn rigging,
sounds
learn
amazing.
3D modeling real quick, and I'll have
We'll
to
look
make up
around.
a new one.
We'll look around,
look around
for it,
for
and
it.
it's the Lewa from the film saying that line
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Because he traps the big robot down, the Bionicle character down in the pit, and then he looks down and says that to him and kind of salutes.
that sounds amazing.
That is
That's
fascinating.
incredible. I would love to see that.
Because it's so interesting. That's like it really helps kind of look into how these processes were done then and how they're done now, and like tropes that Lego follows in media now. Like oftentimes green characters, they've got this kind of, wackier voice where they're, really cool and hang back, but it's kind of up here. And Liwa is like the only character in any Lego media that's colored green that completely deviates from that, and it's fascinating.
Well, I think because if you think of it too, all the Lego characters in the past, they weren't being animated.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
This is literally their first foray, unless commercials. This was the beginning of Lego entertainment. So,
Yeah, it really was. They hadn't done anything like this.
and they did have mystical nature, a bit of I call it mystical
Yeah.
nature. So the
Spiritual
spirit
almost.
of the air, spirit of the air, and
Spirit
and
fire.
then the water. That was important. That they were these elements.
Yeah.
They represented these elements as well.
All right.
Now, you know what you haven't talked about? I'm just going to throw in, since we're talking about voices, Makuta.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, the legend himself, Lee Tonka.
I still need to talk to him.
He was, recording him. Boy, finding his voice was
Tough.
it was tough,
And
and
trying not to make it too caricatured, but
Mhm.
something.
I think it
kind
was a very nice middle ground.
yeah.
Yeah.
And our inspiration for him was Marlon Brando and
Yes. In
Apocalypse.
Apocalypse
Now.
Now.
That character.
He's
I
kind
don't know
of
if you've
madman
seen
in the
him. He's
jungle.
a bald and he's a madman. It's in the dark.
Right.
And he was our inspiration for Makuta, that character.
And what's fascinating with Makuta is, he plays serious and scary, but there was also a fine line of not being too intense, because Lego is a family-friendly company. And when the film was being set for distribution in Germany, we had to go back and re-edit some of the movie, because we used the red
Color red.
color
a lot.
red
It was
around
red
him.
lit and all this, and
And in Germany, it was too
was
intense
too evil, too intense. Yeah.
for the audience, for the kids.
Oh.
Again, this is 2003. I think things are different now.
Oh yeah.
We had to go back and recolor time
Mhm.
Yeah.
and make some changes on Makuta, because they were cutting scenes out. It has to go
The
through
Standards and practices.
standards and practices board. They wanted dialogue cut and they wanted scenes cut, because to make
Dang.
it less intense.
Fair
So
enough.
Germany got its own sort of
Version. Of
They
it.
got their own special cut. I mean, that's nice
Yeah.
for Germany.
Oh,
They got this.
my gosh.
fascinating. Because at Lego, because they have techniques in the different Lego lines that
Yeah.
are incredibly popular at the time in Germany, and kids they're very at the time they would say the German boy, the American boys are more crazy, skateboarding, having a good time, boy on the go, and in Germany the Lego boy was more engineering,
Building
scientific,
things.
building things.
Very different than our West or in America.
Yeah. And we think
Oh yeah, for sure.
and the fact their standards and practices and their certification boards were very strong guidelines on things not being too scary, too intense, because it's more of a kinder, gentler Germany, and the kids are more sensitive. So it's just fascinating. Here we just have these images of World War II and things, and but it's not that way at all.
Mm.
And Lego was wonderful as the company that understood their audience
They
well.
sure did.
And it's very different, the European audience
Yeah.
and the American audience. So
Yeah.
Bionicle needed to play for the whole world.
Yeah. They know their market.
So that's my Makuta talk, because I thought that was just an interesting observation on how that character was created, and then even adaptations we needed to make so that Makuta would, it could play in other markets. And I think ultimately, if we had to cut any lines, or did we finally? We may have just gotten to the point where we had to change some of the lighting.
Yeah.
So it didn't feel as intense.
Yeah, we lean towards the darker.
Yeah,
we always did in that world.
Yeah.
And I think Bob, what was a comment? Lighten it up here and there.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it got pretty intense sometimes in the cutting room with Terry and I and Bob. I mean, we had some definite,
differences of
opinion of where things. How things should play out, on the screen.
Yeah, we do like to go darker.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That was not the property for it.
Yeah,
but it was good. But we pushed it.
Yeah,
and so it's like a push pull. Testing the boundary. Okay, how far? And even for Lego, again, this is their first movie.
Yeah.
For them to. We look at things in storyboard, but then when it is in color, it's the same action that's been described, but you feel the intensity and in color, and then you add the composer Nathan First.
Yes,
and
brilliant
music he's writing, and something that in color felt semi intense with music became 5 times more intense. So it's a continual reviewing it at each stage, and then the Lego folks to be able to respond to it, and then even they did some test screenings with kids and things.
And it was great. I'm sure you've heard this before, but we did in this film of Bionicle, the first, even second and third, but the first one, we really kept finding new things we wanted to bring into the screen. That would help deepen the world that much more for the audience.
Yeah, definitely.
We ever do? I'm asking Terry and Dave. Did we ever do one of those where the directors? You watch the movie.
Yes, we did.
We did a director commentary for Bionicle.
Yeah.
I'll have to look at that again. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it is.
A sequel,
Nostalgia.
perhaps? A new one?
A sequel. That'd be cool.
A new one.
Yes.
Honestly, sometimes during this interview, I feel like we're a guest on your podcast.
Yeah,
You guys have great charisma. Your stories are fascinating.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, we had
a lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
And it was a great culture type lessons for us too, going from Denmark to Taiwan, and seeing how everyone everyone contributed into this film, and then learning their cultures.
That's fascinating.
Sure.
It's fascinating watching animators who are from the world of anime. Like in Asia, anime is so powerful. Where then coming to being introduced to this world of Bionicle, and then thinking, oh, these are robots. Well, no, they're not robots. They're characters.
Don't think of them as
biomechanical entities.
right. Biomechanical. Yep.
Biomechanical life forms.
This film wasn't truly an international film. It was, Denmark, England, United States, Germany,
Taiwan,
Canada.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
You're up next.
Now, yeah, that's definitely really cool how worldwide this production process was for you guys. So this next question is more related to how you guys were talking about the rapid fire process of creating the trilogy. And some of it is definitely answered by the mindfulness you guys were talking about of having to edit it for the German audience. Mm-hmm. So were there any plans to release the movies theatrically?
I don't think they actually had plans to, but they did show them at the El Capitan Theater down in Hollywood here.
We premiered Bionicle 2
on the screen. That was really exciting. That was cool. It was cool seeing it on the big screen, and we did the whole thing at a higher resolution anyway, so it projected really nice, large. But I don't think they.
Well, I think there had been discussion
I think
of it.
they talked about it.
They were trying to make a movie deal.
Yeah,
with Miramax.
I think something was going on behind the scenes with that, but we never were told this.
I know Bob said they had story ideas for a theatrical Bionicle film.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
But it wasn't planned that way.
No, or if it was, Bob
we
would
didn't know
only
about
Bob
it.
would know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
that makes sense.
Bionicle 1 premiered at Legoland in San Diego.
That's right. We went to that.
So
that's
they did a
fun.
premiere screening at Legoland in the theater there. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And they had some Hollywood people there.
Yeah.
Because Disney Buena Vista, they had some stars from Disney, some Disney films and things, So they had their red carpet and some Disney actors. The Marion Man, I don't remember what movie, but some people from that were at the premiere.
Yeah, it was quite glamorous for
glamorous. And it looked beautiful on the big screen.
Held together.
Yeah.
And then Bionicle 2, which was even more expansive, the production of that and the quality, the special effects. And that premiered down at El Capitan, which in Los Angeles is the big fancy Disney's theater, old classic theater. That's beautiful. So there were big pictures of the Toa, of the characters on the windows. I think we have some pictures of that, of us at the premiere.
It was cool.
Yeah.
Red carpet all down Hollywood Boulevard.
Big deal.
That sounds awesome. That's like quite the honor to get that kind of
It
showing.
It was. They were thrilled. And we won awards. Bionicle 1 won the Best Special Effects Award.
Saturn Award.
Saturn Award, which is a big deal for the best science
Sci-fi
directed best sci-fi movie.
Oh yeah. I went to a ceremony there at Sci-Fi Award with Bob Thompson that evening, and I'm telling you, that was surreal. And then calling Bob us winning the award and Bob going up, and it was like
he was so nervous.
nervous, but Bob, don't fail because I'm tongue tied. But it was, we were all very proud of it. Very proud of it.
All right.
Wow.
Invi, you want to ask another follow up?
No, I don't. not right now. Sorry.
Vin, you're up. I think we should ask your second question now.
We'll get to a question.
Do I have
it?
Actually, no. I do have the other question. So in that case, since you were talking about how you always got like notified last second that you were making another Bionicle movie, did that just stop after the third one? Did you ever hear about like working on a fourth one at all, or was that just the end of it?
Well, because for Lego, each time they had to, it was a financial decision, because they were funding these movies. Mm-hmm. And then Miramax was distributing internationally, and then Buena Vista Home Video, Disney, was distributing domestically. I think each time a film was done, they were always in the negotiations for the next one. But they wouldn't even know until the one was finished practically if another was coming, because then they were seeing how did toy sales go, how well did the DVD sell. The first one, they sold very well. And then there was talk about another one. And then Lego, at this point in time, there was the way they were making the shift to manufacturing in China. And a lot of the big corporations and the different companies went through these kind of financial downturns.
That's right.
And they were going through a financial downturn at that time.
Yeah,
Lego was.
Yeah. They had to reestablish themselves in the toy marketplace.
And because they even lost,
they lost market share because they were losing market share in the bricks category.
It went to Mega Blocks and some of those.
So the core, you've helped me out. So the core of the family, it was a family-owned business still. They decided to retrench themselves and basically not pursue any more film type work and concentrate on the toy side. So they retrenched,
and they even were selling some of the parks, I think, at the time.
I think they were.
Yeah,
and then they were. They had another one that was in discussion, and then I know they did make a fourth with a company called Threshold. And my understanding was, I think they brought co-production financing, or they financed. So, and Lego had. In the game division, Bionicle, the game division, they were working with a company in England, because we had said to them, wow, we'd love to get the game rights for this, because we made 55 games for Disney. So we'd done a lot of game production. Yeah, Disney Interactive, we produced 55 titles for them.
Wow.
from design through animation, ultimately programming. But they already had a deal in place with the publisher in England or in Europe for the Bionicle games. So, and I think then when the fourth movie was made, ultimately, Threshold, I believe, brought forth the financing for that. I actually had been in discussion with Lego Entertainment a number of years. Okay, I can't remember what year it was. Number of years ago, and the head of Lego, they were making one of the Lego movies. She and I were discussing starting to work together again, perhaps, and then she died. She was in
Oh no.
down in
Tragic.
in Mexico, Cabo San Lucas or something, and I don't know, she fell off a balcony or
motorcycle.
her motorcycle accident. She was killed.
Yeah.
It was like so sad.
It's really tragic.
It was
Yeah.
tragic. It's like I'd been emailing and she wasn't responding. I thought, what is that, Catherine? And then ultimately she found out she'd been, in an accident down in Mexico. So yeah, boo-hoo. We would have loved to have continued making
Doing more,
Bionicle
yeah.
films. I know CGCG continued working with them
Yeah.
because they actually even called me to say, we've been approached. Would you mind? Because with CGCG, we feel like we're family.
Yeah,
We're so close with them. It was like,
we still are.
we still are. And it was like,
Well-
absolutely, keep doing what you're doing because you have the knowledge, creative knowledge, to how to help keep Bionicle.
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting because, for 3 years after the third movie came out, there were no films. 3 years of the Bionicle story, it was only pretty much told in books and comics.
Yeah.
Then in 2009, like you said, they come out with the fourth movie with a new studio, and they're like, okay, this is going to be the beginning of a new trilogy. And then the next year, the theme got canceled. So it was kind of an unfortunate turn of events.
I think it'd be great for them to start this up again and do, because of streaming.
You and us
It is
both.
Perfect platform for a new Bionicle series.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we're the perfect company to do it
Somebody
for them.
call
I
Netflix.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All Bionicle fans flood network.
That's right.
So here's the thing.
They don't even know
You
what's
guys-
going on right now with Lego.
You guys are joking, but two things have happened since. One, Bionicle came back in 2015, and it lasted for about a year and a half. It had 5 episodes on Netflix, a series called Bionicle Journey to One.
Oh.
Never saw it.
That's perfectly from the perspective of a Bionicle fan. That's okay.
Oh, you know what?
You're all right.
I'm on TV right now. I see it got one star.
just the O.
I'll put it this way: the one thing they did right that kept in line with things, they pronounced Leewa's name the same. And since then, so unfortunately, they brought it back. They cut back heavily on marketing, so it never got a lot of attention, and it didn't really get a chance to succeed to the same degree that the original theme did. Since then, though, they're like running a contest right now to bring back a classic Lego theme, like a classic theme for a single set in 2022 to celebrate 90 years of the Lego group. And Bionicle is one of those themes that they're letting you vote for, and it's like surged ahead of friggin' everything else.
You can understand what we're advocating for.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
Yep.
Lego
we'll see.
Space.
oh my gosh, get out of here, Ben.
Speaking of, Vin, you're up with your next question.
So, sorry, my mic cut out earlier. It's a bit strange. But now, we haven't touched on this yet, so I'm really excited to see where this goes. Obviously, music is a big part of the film, and we've always felt like it was one of the strongest aspects of Mask of Flight, and the whole trilogy. There's so many memorable themes that have come from the movies, and that we always felt like they're very fitting for the atmosphere. And we even had the pleasure of interviewing Nathan First a few years back, and of course, he's both a phenomenal talent as well as an incredibly delightful person. Just all around, that guy is so awesome. So my questions are: how did you guys find him? How did you know he was the right choice to create the sound for the movies? And what kind of inspired the direction of that sound?
Well, I'll start on how we found him. We worked very closely with the sound house, a post audio house, Hacienda Post. Tim Borquez, the owner of it, and he he's worked on things, TV series and movies. He does SpongeBob. He does a million things. Fabulous guy, great consultant. He did the sound design for the Bionicle trilogy. I was talking with Tim. We were looking for composers, and we reached out to a few people. And I was told him we were, searching for the right composer. And he knew Nathan. He said, "Hey, here's somebody you should meet." Because Nathan was fairly new in his career. He'd done some movies, but we then met with Nathan. He gave us samples, and we loved his sound. And then Terry and David spent time talking with him and discussing, because you guys then had the ideas for the way you were hearing the music going.
Yeah, the thematics of it. And he had samples that were very, we could see that the depth of his samples, that he could pull this off. The quality.
We wanted a really big sound, real theatrical.
We wanted John Williams caliber Bionicle.
Yeah.
And Nathan, because we always...
And we wanted the themes, like John Williams, like Star Wars, theming with the characters and that. And Nathan was just so great to work with. Just wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And for us with Bionicle, we always saw this as a big movie.
Yeah.
So when we were making it, we weren't making a direct-to-video movie.
No,
we were making a big
in our
movie.
heads, it was bigger,
Yeah.
So.
And we wanted great animation. We wanted great sound design. Our sound design was fantastic and very deep for a direct-to-video movie. It was way bigger. It was like a movie soundtrack. And then with Bob, wanted themes for each of the main characters and the worlds, so that would have this sweeping score that carries you on the journey and supports the journey. When it was, mysterious, the music would support that. When it was action, it was, action music. And when it was sinister with Makuta and some of the very dark parts of the storyline, really supporting that. And then the Lego people, we gave them three potential composers, because usually in this type of situation, they wouldn't have three to choose from. And we then also gave them our strong vote for Nathan.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bob met with Nathan. They all loved the sound.
Yeah.
And then when Nathan came and met with them, and then they had, music scoring. We call it like you're watching the movie and the storyboard, we're doing temp music, and then sound spotting and music scoring spotting, where you sit with the composer and they're watching through the storyboard and talking about the moments. And then Nathan began writing key themes. He wrote some key themes for the world and for the characters. And then he developed a theme for all the major characters. And then he would do it in temp music format. So it wasn't with, fully orchestrated with all the different instruments yet, but you could really feel the theme. And then the Lego people would listen, and Bob, and they gave guidance, but never was there a situation, I can't remember, where they didn't like what Nathan was doing.
No,
he really got into the world.
Yeah.
And in each film, the score became better and better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It shows, honestly. It really does show. It's like I said, a lot of those themes that we hear in the movies, they're definitely very memorable and unique. They don't, a criticism I personally have of some films these days is that it often sounds like the score is made of very stock sounding music, and that's definitely not something I can like. That's not Nathan First. Nathan First did an amazing job.
Yeah,
and we talked to him too about we also like there's moments where you don't want music at all, and he was on board with that too. It's like sometimes also a lot of productions there's just constantly music,
wall to wall.
It can get kind of annoying, and sometimes you just want quiet, and just let the actors do their thing without some theme going on in the background. He was real good about that too, is saying can we just not have a big score here?
I think in one particular example, as I know when we were working with him on the Makuta sequence, it is the first initial, and when he's looking, and we wanted moments of silence just to get you on edge, and then the score would come in.
Right.
But he that's rare to find someone who will agree with you.
To not have music. Yeah. Sometimes,
And Nathan, the way he set the score up, he would write the themes and sequences, and he had it layered, many, many layers of the music, so that then the sound mix on the sound stage, when you mix a movie, you go through and you're mixing the dialogue, the sound effects, and the music, and you're doing separate passes for them. So you'll go through with the dialogue, so the balancing is correct, and then you start layering in the sound effects and then the music. And Nathan came to the music mixing sessions, and he would work with the sound designer, Tim, the final mixer, and with Terry and David, and Bob was there at the mixes too, talking about where we thought we should, drop down the music. And then Nathan would even go back sometimes over at night and re-edit something to help
tweak it.
And if we were bringing it in slower, he might have recomposed the beginning theme, part of the theme, so that it started when we wanted it to start. So he was extremely collaborative, and again, he also saw this. He wanted to give it as much as possible, make it big, make it important, unique, and it's like if we're handling a Disney movie, we put that level of attention to this.
Yeah,
and I think it pays off.
Fair enough. Well, I definitely think it did as well, and most people do too. The music is widely lauded as being IP defining for Bionicle. All right.
I was going to say, hopefully we're not getting too in the weeds on this. But
this is what we want.
Perfect.
I think for the fans and everyone to know some of the level that went into it and how important it was to Lego and everybody.
This is what we want. I appreciate how freely you give the details.
It was a labor of love for everybody. Really, Terry and I, and besides, Terry and I love robots.
Yeah.
We do. So it was a dream come true for us to work on that. We dig sci-fi.
Of course, we never called them.
Yeah.
No, we would never.
You guys love biomechanical life forms.
See, this has been perfect for me.
You're Bob Thompson now.
I too appreciate the robots, and I am a film major, so this has been very insightful for me.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate this.
Welcome.
This is so much to process, and it's going to be a lot of fun re-listening to some of this to get some inspiration.
Been fun.
Yes.
Yeah. It's been a wide range of different topics about how these movies were made, and I was kind of musing. It's like opening a Pandora's box because there's so much that we haven't heard before, and now we're just getting all this information right now. No, it's great. Thank you guys so much.
You're quite welcome.
I don't think we're under a non-disclosure agreement anymore.
I don't know, guys. I think Bob Thompson's out the window. He's like,
I know.
Said that.
Did you say Bionicles?
They said Bionicle twice in this entire recording.
It's Liwa, not Lua.
LJ, ask your question.
Okay, all right. So we've all got our favorites. Everyone here, we have a different Bionicle movie that we like. Very few of us like the fourth one that you guys did not work on. We don't talk to those people. No, I'm kidding. Of the three,
We've never had the opportunity.
Of the three films that you guys worked on, did you have a favorite to work on, and did you have a favorite film?
No, it was instant.
That's the wrong one. No, continue.
The last one was my favorite.
Really?
And the reason why is because it's funny.
I know what you're
At
gonna
the
say.
very first one, we had the Lego people were on top of us. I mean, we really worked collaborative with them. Second one, a little less, but the third one, it was like they were just gone. And we were kind of left alone, which was kind of dangerous. So,
oh my God.
like we said earlier, we like to go dark, and so we went dark with Web of Shadows. We had the most fun doing that. I don't know if it's the best movie of them all, but to us, we put the most into it and the most quality, and it's really more of us than I mean, literally, we worked with Bob, but not even as much as the other ones. We were kind of left alone.
He let the reins loose a little bit on Free.
So it was most fun for us to just have that freedom. So it was my favorite.
Yeah, I liked that one. And I also like number 1 too, just because we were experimenting.
Yeah.
The experimentation of what would this do?
What can you do with this world? And also the story was a little more cute with the two little
buddy story.
The buddy story, and and then they got darker and stuff. But my favorite's Web of Shadows, but I agree with David. They all had a different flavor, which we really wanted to do. And the second one we liked too. But so yeah.
We love film. We love to invent and create here, and those gave us optimum opportunity to do that in a very hollowed format, if you will, film.
Fair enough.
So.
And I think Web of Shadows also was the one we were able to present the scope of the world.
Yeah,
it was bigger and bigger.
Really opened it up.
The sky, and then deep beneath, and the production design on that was by far the most expansive.
We had a great production designer and a good friend of ours, Dwayne Luce, heading up production design. Has an extensive background in industrial design and world design. He's done and he's gone on to work at EA and other game studios as well. But he's very deep also into this kind of world, if you will. And his work is spread throughout those 3 films.
Because when you look at the different landscapes in the cities and the different worlds we go into, but in movie 2 and 3, Lego didn't have designs for
no, they
those.
didn't.
They didn't have. We designed the world on all of these. All they had was what they had shown in a couple commercials and in some comic art. That was it. We designed the universe.
Wild, had fun with it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really, really cool.
Fair enough.
Wow.
All right.
I have
Here's
to
my
say
question.
though. Sorry.
No. You go first.
No, I have to really owe it to you guys with that in that regard, because I definitely loved. That's kind of when I really started to get into Bionicle, was the Metro Nui era. So I'm really appreciative of you guys being able to make that, like, the city setting and all that stuff, because that, you guys are talking about how much you guys like sci-fi. I love sci-fi as well. So to be able to get that kind of world in Bionicle was great. And so
we were not studying other movies, getting ideas. Sometimes production design will look at other movies and get ideas from them. We did not.
I have an interesting question.
Sure.
So I forget what year it is when this happened, but there was a huge twist to the world of Bionicle.
I was just about to ask that.
Were you guys in on the secret?
What
or
twist?
was it the twist that the entire world of like Metro Nui and everything was inside the giant robot body?
Yeah.
Yes.
So you were in on it?
Yes.
Oh, right. 'Cause that was a massive secret.
People caught on to your visual indicator, the suns, the twin suns, like closing, like the two.
Yes, that was always that was kind of at the end of 1.
I think Bob was like,
and even with
swore
that,
us to secrecy.
Yeah, it was one of those secrets again with Bob that he wouldn't tell us everything. But yes,
It took 5 more years before that got revealed.
Isn't that funny?
And I like the eye closing. He had images in his mind of what it could be, and that was really cool, wasn't it?
Oh my god!
Oh man,
That's so cool.
We dared not even draw what it might look like.
we had, gosh, everyone was like, "What does Matt Nui look like? I think he's like white and gold, and I think he's just like the normal face that they never showed, and all sorts of things." Nope, he's literally just friggin' everything, and he's 40 million feet tall. Have fun.
That's
Bigger
a
than
question.
King Kong and Godzilla put together.
That's a question. So what was behind the decision to not show the faces of the characters underneath the masks? Was that like a conscious choice, or just something that
They didn't
just
have
didn't happen?
He just didn't have them. Yeah.
And they never, getting eyes was quite a push.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
never would have allowed the design
we
of
never even
faces.
talked about it. And plus, the toy line was all about masks.
That's
Right.
fair.
Really all about that. So
All right. It was just like I always wondered because in the sets they do have like the same face under the mask.
Yes,
I
they
just
do.
wondered if that was like a conscious choice to exclude it. Fair enough.
Not really.
All right.
That did remind me. I'm taking a pin out of something I put in much earlier.
Oh yeah, that's right.
The fist bump. I don't know what rock I was under, or if I was just introduced to things at the right time. But for the longest time, I thought that the fist bump was purely a Bionicle thing. I had no idea.
That way.
Yeah,
No
we
clue.
invented.
Yeah, I thought it was just like I'd go up to people and like fist bump them and I'm like, yeah, they understand. They've seen the movies. Nope. Nope. Looks like that's a thing. And wasn't a Bionicle thing.
LJ was a sheltered youth.
Listen, you're sheltered. You're number 2. But
The fist bump was a Bob Thompson.
Yeah, it
thing.
was definitely Bob wanted it, and he had a very specific way that he wanted us to do it. But I don't know why. It was just he wanted that kind of feeling of
Which is cool.
little that club that the Knights of the Round Table thing.
yeah.
So he wanted something to represent that together. Together we are stronger, and fist bump,
And that was in culture that people weren't fist
Yeah,
bumping
actually, it was
a bunch at that
No,
time.
not as
Maybe in
much.
sports
in
they did it.
sports.
Maybe
So
Howie
you didn't
Mandel.
Fist bump somebody.
Not like today.
Oh,
Sounds like we definitely need to
Started-
talk to Bob Thompson at some point.
That's a Bob question.
But I can imagine Bob keeping the mystery.
Oh yeah,
Yes. There is a certain amount he still will not talk
I'm
about.
sure.
Dang.
My goodness.
All right, guys. I think I know what we need to do.
What do we need
SEAL
to
Team 6. We're gonna find Bob.
do? Find Bob.
Have you talked to Martin Reber
Fine,
Anderson?
We haven't.
We have
I
not.
don't see. We've tried to like reach out to these folks every so often,
well.
like over the years.
Martin left Lego.
Yeah.
Martin left Lego, so maybe he would. He might.
Probably
I-
enjoy.
He's on LinkedIn because I connected with him recently.
Yeah, I did see him on there.
We will see.
Yeah, no, we're gonna have to, cause this stuff, it's so insightful, because this is all stuff, obviously, that we grew up with, that shaped what we want to do, like,
Yeah.
what different fields we want to go into, what skills we really invested our time into. I mean, the podcast has split off into so many different avenues for us as individuals, and it all started because we just came together as a bunch of young kids being like, you want to talk about Bionicle this week? Yeah, let's talk about Bionicle this week.
The amount of things we've gone over in regards to Bionicle, I'm sure we've discussed every aspect of it to ridiculous degrees by this point. I don't think there's a stone unturned.
You know what's fascinating about that is Bionicle really before that they were action figures and toys, and action figures like Star Wars toys and Star Trek toys and action figures, they had used to be for older boys, but then by this time they were like aged down to like 3-year-olds
Yeah.
action figures, and they didn't. At that age, you're not creating storylines around the characters, and Lego with Bionicle, really, just like you were describing, you could talk about these characters and imagine storylines for them and take them off into, bring them into your universe and interact with them like they're real people. That is I think really expresses the power of Bionicle. And then for, everyone playing with them, because 2 of our guys here are editors, they grew up on these. Like, we have old Bionicle stuff, and they've got them all at their desks. And
They brought their own stuff in too.
it was captured like the zeitgeist. It really did
It did.
connect with boys, girls as well, in a smaller way, but it really did.
Yeah,
And so you're storytellers today because of that.
it was.
Essential.
We did 1 or 2 Comic Cons with with Bionicle, and it was interesting to see that room fill up. It was a big room to panel on that, with all the cross section of different people that were interested in it, young and old.
It's very interesting in a lot of ways to see how it's kind of progressed and grown in the way that it has, especially in the Lego, the general Lego sphere. It sometimes it's a little bit of a black sheep, but Bionicle is always kind of special in a way that it really pushed a lot of different people in a lot of very fascinating directions, not only within the LEGO group itself, but outside of it. Because, I mean, obviously enough, we all have our individual things that we do, like we all work jobs and do different things, but our actual career aspirations and what we're working on actively was shaped very heavily by that. And it's also interesting that you guys were talking earlier about how much of an international production and international effort BIONICLE really truly was, because it's so fascinatingly reflected in its following, in its community. Like we were talking about earlier, we've got members in Mexico, in New Zealand, in Norway, in Britain, Canada, the United States, all over the world. And it's not even an outlier for us, for our group. Like, people all across the world are still interested, they still love talking about it, and they're still super passionate about it, and they're still making things, even things pertaining to the films. And it's just really interesting to see how that has remained as strong as it has, because it's kind of a
it's something special. It takes a unique kind of property to have that kind of long-lasting appeal.
Mm-hmm. It really does. Yeah.
You're right.
And I mean, BIONICLE might not be on shelves anymore, but its legacy thankfully lives on, thanks to other themes too. You guys heard of Ninjago?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
You've heard of Ninjago?
I have.
What do you think?
Well,
from your guys' perspective, having... Sorry, Hayley, do you want to ask this? She's our...
I'm the Ninjago expert here. Funnily enough, I got into Ninjago first, and then once I met all of these wonderful people, they're like, "But have you heard of BIONICLE?" And it took me on the 6-month journey of going through the entire canon and whatnot. But yeah, Ninjago is how I got into. So I'm curious to what your thoughts of what that is, what or at least that life of Lego right now being kind of the.
It's the modern version.
It's the successor to BIONICLE.
A little cuter version of it.
I mean,
the less cool version. I mean, who likes ninjas anymore?
Okay now.
They're cool, cute,
and they're kind of fun. They're little the vehicles like motorcycles, and it combined other. They feel younger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
bit,
definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely more. It definitely feels a lot more Lego because you're like, oh yeah, it's a minifigure.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
But I like the fact, but also going with the color theme, the red, the blue, where they're colored similarly,
and they're cute,
and they've got comedy.
Yeah,
there's some comedy.
Yeah, they do.
Kind of fun, and so they're less serious. Like BIONICLE was. I think said serious as a heart attack.
Yeah,
I mean, that was absurd.
Yeah.
You didn't have
ridiculous degrees.
Yeah.
I mean, Ninjaga's done really good with balancing, a lot of the focus on storytelling and characterization that BIONICLE kind of pioneered. Even if its tone is a bit lighter, it keeps the same values. And I think it's interesting how the company's philosophy towards storytelling is shifted as a direct result of what came before. It's nice. It's nice to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and the way they gave them faces, some of them with the Lego movies now, where they've got the faces on the painted faces on, and they can express, and so they have a lot of ability.
Traditional Lego,
an ability to emote and I think pull you into a story and go on kind of fantastic adventures.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember when you were all talking about the importance of movement and facial expressions in animation. Ninjago in the past 2 years moved to a new animation company that has a lot more exaggerated facial expressions. It's the same minifigure, but their mouths get bigger, their eyes move around, their white pupils move, and I thought of that when you're talking about how you demanded for eyes in the BIONICLE models, because you get so much emotion in just a pupil moving.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it's amazing to see how different it feels to see these same characters, but emote so much more just because of simple movement.
Oh, the subtle stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even to see where Lego has gone, and we like to say, we feel we helped Lego get their entertainment division going.
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%.
And they didn't have it. And then you look at the Lego movie and what they've done.
Oh, yeah.
Lego Batman, all the Lego things they're doing.
It's fantastic.
If you could have said to them in 2003 that this would be a possibility, they would have said, "No, we could never do that." They weren't, that just wasn't.
They weren't ready for that. Yeah.
The
But
importance of a story.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they really guided their franchises really well. I mean, my
Oh,
gosh,
yeah.
the humor and the storytelling that they're doing is quite phenomenal.
All right.
Oh yeah.
It is.
Unless anyone has anything else, I'd like to close out today's thing with one final question. Does anybody have anything else?
All right, guys,
Anything
come
else?
on. Let's be honest. You know what? We're all friends for the time of this recording.
Go on.
Who's your favorite character?
Who is your favorite Toa hero?
Sorry, just
Oh,
That's for you
you're
guys.
also asking them to remember their names.
that's okay.
That's true.
It's all right.
You're asking just that? Oh.
Yeah, well, what's your favorite character? It's
For
all right.
me, it's probably Tahu.
Toatahu?
Yeah,
The red one, the legendary.
he's cool.
No. He's hot.
I like Liwa. I got him still up on my desk.
Yeah, he's.
Oh,
A man
dang.
of culture.
And Sue will probably say Nakama.
Well, I like the but I also liked the mysticism of Bionicle.
Yeah,
I do yoga, and I've been practicing Kundalini
Like
yoga for years. Which is,
Kitangu.
yeah, I love the spirit. So sitting there floating,
Yeah.
levitating, and I just love that they put that was put into those
Yeah.
movies.
I still have the Bionicle that's, is it Liwa here on the test?
Yeah,
I still have that exact model that we used for
Yeah.
that one.
Oh man. Was
as
it a prototype, or was it just like?
remembrance of it. With the little Lego sticker production model on the bottom
Yeah,
of
because
the
it was
foot.
from Lego, the production
Oh.
model. It wasn't a final toy.
Yeah.
It was
Oh,
like one of
no.
the early prototypes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Could
dang.
you send a picture of that? Because like, I know
Sure.
like two other people that have like a prototype Liwa figure. One of them is a fan, and the other is Alistair Swinnerton.
Ah.
Sure, we can do that.
it's
That's
for
awesome.
sale for a vast amount of money.
Yeah.
All right. Hang
You
on.
joke, but I'm sure he would match you.
Trust me. Trust me. Listen, I'm a little
Only
crazy.
Bitcoin too.
Bitcoin.
Oh,
no.
no. Leave us super fan.
He was-
Tell him about the mask, Eljay.
Let's
Tell
not
him
talk
about
about
the
the
mask.
mask, Meso. Let's not.
Tell him about the life-size Liwa mask
Don't-
that you
it's
wore
not
for 4
important.
years because you wouldn't show your
no.
face.
We don't listen. I like to present myself as at least somewhat professional, just a little zany. Okay, thank you. We're gonna go ahead and move on to the final question now.
All right.
All right.
So I think I just kind of wanted to end the show moving a little bit away from Bionicle and talking a little bit about you guys, namely things that you're still doing actively now. Any projects you have, like you're working on, and kind of where you've been since Bionicle for those who are interested in taking a look at your other works.
I'd say that the work we do the most of is for Disney, mostly in the theme park area. So we work on a lot of different things, which we love variety. That's why we like working with Disney. We like the quality. But we do a lot of work with projection shows. They do a lot of projection stuff where they project on the castle, Christmas shows, Halloween, projecting on water, like Wonderful World of Color. But so a lot of, and we do a lot of our own development. We did also you can see on our YouTube channel, something called The Wonderful World of Walt, which was about Walt Disney. We made him into a
Stop motion puppet.
So it's a caricature of Walt Disney, and he's talking about things going on in his life. We did 5 little short episodes, so you should check that out. Wonderful World. And we've never done stop motion before, so we did that more to learn, and we built the puppet ourselves and the whole thing.
And we had recordings from the 1950s.
Him actually
Of
talking.
Walt.
And we use those, and they're about a minute long each.
That was a labor of love.
Yeah, that was fun. We'd like to do more of those. But yeah, it's mostly Disney work and our own development. I mean, some stuff we can't talk about because we're working on it now, but
Understandable.
We're under
mostly,
an NDA at
yeah.
almost every studio. Most of what we do, we can't even talk
no,
about,
but
which is a
which is
drag.
unfortunate, but we did some work for Epcot recently, which was LeFou. It's for the pavilion, the France Pavilion, in the World Showcase at Epcot.
Walt
And
Disney
it's
World.
down in Walt Disney World. It's a sing-along with LeFou and the Beauty and the Beast characters.
Kind of retelling of the story of Beauty and the Beast.
We did a whole bunch of brand new animation of LeFou, and it's really cute.
LeFou being the sort of the secret story was that LeFou was acting as a matchmaker. We thought he was just a bad guy, the sidekick of Gaston, but actually he was in the background doing little things to help bring Belle and the Beast together. So he animated for Don Hahn, who's the producer of Beauty and the Beast.
Movie.
He was also the producer of The Lion King,
Little Mermaid.
Little Mermaid. Well, he worked on that.
Yeah.
Don Hahn is like one of the penultimate Disney
Giants.
giants. He's written tons of books. And
Wow.
doing this show for Epcot. And so a whole new storyline he developed of how LeFou was a matchmaker. And it's adorable. The animation's online. Like we see LeFou. He helped make Belle's beautiful golden ball gown. And there's a scene where he's wearing it. It's cute.
So yeah, the Disney work is kind of what we probably about 85% of our work for hire
Our business was built
built on Disney. Yeah, we've worked for them since the 80s.
David and Terry were art directors. at Disney.
David and I worked at Disney, and then after Don Bluth, and then we started our company after that. So
Gotcha.
yeah,
All right.
we just like doing quality stuff.
Yeah, we do. Whatever. We love
Whatever, so long as it's quality.
It's got to be quality
and
good
stuff
family
that,
entertainment.
projects that characters and projects that interesting worlds and characters and with companies we respect.
Yeah.
So hypothetically, if Lego were to bring back Bionicle,
We're on board.
We're on board.
We're
right?
call you up. Yes.
Wiggles eyebrows.
We're ready. Just
We're ready.
give us a call.
I'm
We
gonna
can
go
jump back to the Bionicle world.
Make
Hey,
it-
if it makes the 90th anniversary set, they may need a set commercial. Who knows?
There you
No,
go.
no, Hayley.
No,
We need more than that.
a little bit more than that.
More.
Yeah, I'm just saying that they can start there, and then all of a sudden, the next thing you know,
And I'm
the
just,
Bionicle
All
world
right.
returns.
and
You know what? I wish they would have done an Art of Bionicle book.
Yeah.
right?
Ooh.
They did one
Wow.
for G2, the second,
Yeah,
like
for
the
its
remake,
return.
but they never made one for the original theme.
You know, we had done. We had created production books for the people working with us, where
Yes.
we had the designs, the original sketch designs for the Toa, for all the characters, and then
It'd be fun to have those in a book.
the environments, wireframe, the sketch before the wireframes and
Yeah,
the sets were
All the
built.
color art direction.
The color art direction we have sequence by sequence in color.
Like we would do little small
Little
paintings.
thumbnails.
We probably have 500
Yeah.
of them. We did hundreds for each movie. So as an art piece, it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
art
maybe-
that went into it.
Maybe we should do that.
Well, I would get in trouble.
Well,
Unless you
now
guys
let's get their
promote
permission.
the idea.
Hey, hey, look!
I mean,
Right here.
The
You
making
guys
of-
want it? Make some noise.
the making of the Bionicle trilogy.
Yes,
Yeah.
fans,
It's-
make some noise.
honestly,
Yes.
that's
We have all the art.
we
ready
have
to
all
go.
the art.
I think,
Oh, man.
I think people would love that.
I would not
So,
consider
yeah,
that.
right?
I would not consider that anything close to unrealistic, especially considering that Mask of Light, its 20th anniversary is in 3 years, 2 years.
Wow.
2 years.
Let's start some crowdfunding.
Yeah, let's start some crowdfunding.
Yeah, we can get a push for that. And
Guys, let us know. And
All right.
Really-
I'll go ahead and loop that in along with other things that the community is definitely asking for, including Bionicle coming back, Bionicle art book, and Measly Liwa. Anyway,
Yes.
so
LJ's greatest dream revealed. He wants to voice Liwa.
listen, all I need to do is defeat Bob Thompson in combat, and we're fine. It's good.
Yes, that's right.
I know how these things work. I'm a professional. All right, Meso,
I think we should begin wrapping up.
I agree.
So I want to thank all three of you for number one coming on and number two for being so wonderfully charismatic and free flowing with information. You guys have been an absolute pleasure to talk to. I learned more than I think I even figured I would going into this. And
I'm glad.
And some things you were not you shouldn't have known or shouldn't have been told.
well, you know, is what it is.
It's all right. I think we'll keep it a secret. It's just us.
Yes.
Here. It's
You won't tell me.
So yeah, thank you for still caring about it all those years later. You guys did good work that meant a lot to a lot of people.
Thank you.
We loved it.
Yeah.
It was a golden part of our career
Really was.
doing
Good
that.
memories.
Good memories. And I think you should start a blog asking anyone who's done any Lego experience.
See if you can get us.
Yes.
We need to find more on this.
Yeah, honestly, that's like
It's starting to seem like a weird dream to us if it really happened or not. So
Yeah, it's been up for a while.
Oh, yeah, they've
before
been
we've
doing
been there.
it's gone now.
It was like it was envisioned by someone who had a psychedelic experience
Yeah.
or something.
I mean, I swear to you, it does feel like something out of a Wes Anderson film.
It
Yeah.
does.
all right. Well, thank you very much for coming on, and thanks to all of you for listening today. If you have some thoughts on this interview, some thoughts on what was discussed, feel free to leave in the comments section below. Feel free to check us out on board.ttvchannel.com to continue the Bionicle discussion. And remember, by the time this video comes out, the 90th anniversary poll will either be out or soon to be out. So please, if you would like Bionicle to return in some capacity, go let Lego know and cast your vote in the poll. That being the case, let's go ahead and end.
All right.
I'm Meso.
I'm LJ.
I'm Tenebrain Victus.
And I'm Hayley.
And Vin was here, but he had to leave for work. He sends his regards, much the same as me. And thank you very much, Creative Capers, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yay!
We will see you all next time, and farewell.